The March 15th, 2021 Board of County Commissioners meeting. And as usual, we will begin with our invocation. If you'll please bow with me if you choose. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to gather today to do the county's business. Give us the guidance to conduct ourselves so that we are pleasing to you. Also, help this board to conduct our business so that we are honest and true representatives of all our citizens. God, please give our nation, state, and county guidance so we will better protect and serve our youth, so they may grow and learn and be our future. We have come through some turbulent times. Give us wisdom to recognize what we have truly learned through this pandemic. So many times we take for granted the first responders and the military that protect us on a daily basis. Please give them special protection and keep them safe. Finally, dear God, grant us the humility to always seek your will in all that we do and say. In thy name we pray. Amen. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our first item is our Procurement Department 2020 Sustained Professional Purchasing Award. Michelle, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Today we have some staff here from our Procurement Department. Come on up, ladies. The Union County Procurement Department met the requirements to receive the Carolinas Association of Governmental Purchasing 2020 Sustained Professional Purchasing Award. This award was presented to the procurement team last week at their annual conference, and they're here today to receive a recognition from you on that award. Thank you, ladies. Outstanding work. And not on this agenda, but I want to add this because we didn't know this when the agenda was put together, but Cheryl Wright, our director, actually was also awarded the Hal Wicker Award for outstanding contributions and service to the cause and advancement of the purchasing profession. And so that is their most prestigious award, and we want to congratulate Cheryl for her work and her team for the support that they give her.
Ladies, if you'll join me up front.
Corey is here in spirit. Ava is carrying their teammate, Corey.
Corey, he's out at a site visit.
Who's out for time? Okay, all right, thank you. And y'all comfortable enough to take your mask off so everybody can see you? All right. 3, 2, 1, or more, 3, 2, 1. Good? Yep.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations. Recognize our employees is one of the most gratifying parts of being a commissioner. And next, we'd like to recognize a Lifesaver Award recipient. Inmate Health Nurse Supervisor Craig Greenlee is being honored with the Union County First Lifesaver Award for his split-second thinking and situational awareness to potentially save the life of his colleague at the Union County Jail, who was exposed to fentanyl. Greenlee responded and observed signs of an opioid overdose. He administered Narcan to the officer, potentially saving her life. The management team recognized Mr. Greenlee's heroic actions by surprising him with a Lifesaver Award on February 22nd outside of the Union County Sheriff's Office. A Lifesaver Award is given to the Union County employee whose selfless actions result in saving someone's life. I'd like to also recognize Mr. Greenlee. If he can come up, please. sir. Good to see you again. Yes, sir. We have a certificate of recognition. The Union County Board of Commissioners recognizes Craig Greenlee on this 15th day of March 2021 for exemplary service above and beyond the call of duty in saving the life of a colleague at the Union County Jail. On December 29, 2020, you quickly responded to help a colleague who had unknowingly been exposed to fentanyl and exhibited signs of opioid overdose. Your quick and heroic actions to administer Narcan potentially saved a life. This we present on the 15th day of March 2021. And thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Craig Dollar and my son are friends so as well, so we've had the pleasure of meeting before. Thank you, sir. As we continue to recognize our employees, we'd like to recognize several for their service. And we'll begin with 5 years of service. Linda Bacon with the Community Support and Outreach. Lindsay Mullis, Community Support and Outreach. Gretchen Hill, the Library. Wyatt Howell, Public Works. John Shutak with Public Works. Justin Liberance with the Sheriff's Office, and Roger Wiles with the Sheriff's Office. And with 15 years, we recognize John Tompkins with the Library, James Dennis with the Sheriff's Office. And with 20 years, Lisa Kyan with HS Business Ops with 20 years, and Amy Kay with the Sheriff's Office. And with 25 years, Sheila Treadway with Tax Administration. We appreciate your dedication and your service to Union County for all these years. We will begin now with the next item is a text amendment, UDO sections 5.030 and 105.03 maximum density. And Lee, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's mask off. These are a short series of text amendments, but what they really accomplish is defining what the maximum site density for a tract of property is or can be. This has gotten some interest from the planning board and from some members of the Board of Commissioners. So we drafted this pretty simple but text amendment. The first thing we needed to do was look at what that meant. What does maximum site density mean? So it's a pretty straightforward definition. It's basically you take the overall square footage of the lot minus any required exclusions, which would be defined in the ordinance, and divide that by whatever the density for that zoning district is, and that gives you a total number of available building lots. So what I mean by available or site density is if it's RA 40, then you would divide it by 40,000 square feet. If it's RA 20, it would be 20,000 square feet, and so on and so forth. So once we set the definition, then we look at how that definition is applied. So that's when you get into conventional development and cluster development. Conventional development, we didn't have a really good definition of that when we started this process. So that's the first thing we looked at, was we should actually have a good definition of conventional development. We came up with one that's a good definition, and it's very simple. It's one that utilizes Table 5-2 to establish what your minimum lot sizes are. And then your applicability section, we clarified that it applies to all R and RA zoned districts, and that the lot and building regulations of Table 5-2, which is the table that specifies setbacks and lot densities that applies to conventional developments. And then your exclusions. And it's important to note that these exclusions only apply to major subdivisions. I think, and that's any any subdivision that's more than 8 lots. We didn't want to, so talking it through with the planning board, became apparent that we didn't really want to regulate minor subdivisions. That's usually, not always, but probably 95% of the time, that's a property owner that wants to give a lot or maybe a couple lots to a son or daughter or a grandchild, and didn't want to get those caught up in this amendment. So this would apply to major subdivisions. And what the exclusion is, the first part was already in the ordinance, but we felt like we needed to clarify it. That density was not transferable across streets or existing public roads. You can't count existing or proposed public road right-of-way. That's already in the ordinance. It just wasn't 100% clear the way it was written. So we decided to clarify that. And then the main exclusion is that areas within floodplains and stream buffers would be excluded from that maximum site density. And then the second part applies to cluster developments, which is basically where you take a piece of property and you don't get any more density, but you can reduce the lot sizes down and set up the remainder of the property as common open space. That section already included where you can't, it was a little bit better defined, I should say, where you couldn't count density, you couldn't go across the state-maintained road, and that existing and proposed density was excluded. So really, the only thing that's being added there is that floodplains and stream buffer areas are excluded from that maximum site density. And in a nutshell, that's it. I'll be happy to answer any questions. But before that, I should say, the planning board did review this at their last meeting, and they unanimously recommend approval.
Okay. Commissioner
Sorry.
Rushing?
Chairman. A couple of questions that I had on this. What kind of effect does this have on any current projects that are underway? Any current projects that are in our system? What does that have?
It would not apply to any project that has already received, or actually has already submitted plans for review. Part of which you'll be seeing probably in a few months, is the 160D amendments. That includes a provision for what they call permit choice. That's effective now, and it basically, a developer could choose to have this provision applied to them if they have a set of plans already in review, but they don't have. This doesn't have to apply to them. It's their choice. But any projects, if let's say this was approved today, any project that came in after today, it would then apply to.
Okay. The reason I asked that, especially with all the revaluation information that's come out, if I had 100 acres and I was going to subdivide it, or I was going to cluster, and maybe 15 acres were taken out for wetlands, is the value of my property on 100 acres buildable, or is my valuation on 85 acres buildable?
To be honest with you, I'm not sure how the tax office looks at valuations and whether or not they exclude floodplain.
Okay. And maybe before we vote on this, if y'all could get that answer, because
Sure.
that is very curious, is how would we go back? I mean, do those people have to wait 2, 3, 4, 8 years before we do another revow to find out?
Distribution center. In order to accommodate that structure, the company is considering purchasing between 22 and 35 acres of Tract R in our Monroe Corporate Center. And that cost per acre is $65,000 per acre, up to a total of $2,275,000 for the land. Again, Project Blue is considering Union County for an approximate total investment of $19,700,000 that would include the construction of the 266,000 distribution center, or 266,000 square foot distribution center on up to 35 acres of tract R. If Union County is selected, capital investment would be approximately $19,700,000, and job creation would be an additional 100 full-time jobs, paying an average annual wage of $45,000. Our office and the company have been discussing this project periodically since 2017, and they have indicated that incentives are a very important factor for their location decision. Today, we're requesting your consideration of a Step 3 Economic Development Incentive Grant in an amount not to exceed $512,000 over 5 years, based upon the Union County Tax Office's appraised value each year on the company's anticipated investment of $19,700,000 in land, building, and equipment and machinery. Based on this investment and holding all other factors constant, including depreciation, the company would pay estimated ad valorem taxes on that new taxable investment of $719,936 over the grant period. Please note that when we apply the 2021 depreciation schedule and hold all other factors constant, the project would produce approximately $657,298 in tax revenue over the same grant period, and the grant payout would adjust accordingly over the grant period due to depreciation, and that grant payout would be in an amount of $467,000 and change. Of course, actual tax revenue to Union County will be based on the current tax rate applied to the assessed value of the investment each year after depreciation. As we do with all of our projects, we performed a cost-benefit analysis on this one. And Project Blue shows a 1.98 to 1 return over the first 5 years of the project or the grant period. And that increases to 3.00 to 1 return over the life of the project. The Monroe Union County Economic Development Board of Advisors reviewed Project Blue at their March 9th, 2021 meeting, where they unanimously supported us presenting this opportunity to you today for your consideration. We also presented the project to Monroe City Council last week at their March 9th meeting, where a similar economic development grant was awarded unanimously. Therefore, the Monroe Union County Economic Development Board of Advisors and staff recommend the award of this Step 3 Performance-Based Economic Development Incentive Grant to Project Blue in an amount not to exceed $512,000 to help secure this $19.7 million investment. I thank you and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. At this time, I will open the public hearing for Project Blue. No one has signed up. With that, I will close the public hearing. Next item we have is our informal comments. And each speaker must address the board from the lectern and begin their remarks by giving their name, stating whether they are residents of Union County, indicating the municipality within which they reside, if any, and stating the topic about which they intend to speak. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to make remarks. Speaker may not yield his time to another speaker. Speakers may not discuss matters which are subject of public hearing and must be courteous in language and presentation. We have one individual signed up, Shane Kazai. If you'd come on, sir.
How you doing?
Thank you, sir.
My name's Shane Kazai. I live in the town of Indian Trail. I'm here to speak to you about the increase in taxes. Here's the thing. I voted for about all of y'all fellas. And when I did so, I was voting for conservative government. I was voting for smaller government, lesser taxes. And I'm hoping that that's what you're going to give me with this. This is actually an opportunity for y'all. This is an opportunity for y'all to give us all lower taxes, if that's truly what y'all believe. Some of y'all have put it to me that the state has forced this, that y'all are required to do that, and that is true. But y'all set the rate. It is within y'all's power to give every person in Union County a smaller tax bill in their mailbox, not a tax rate cut. That is not the same thing. A lower bill in your mailbox when you go pull it out. And that's what I'm asking of y'all. I voted for every one of y'all. I'm asking y'all to be conservative, to do as y'all said y'all wanted to do. Give me a lower tax bill. Vote for smaller government. You know, if you believe in smaller government, then start it. It will grow smaller. That's how that works. If you choose to raise my tax bill, I can only, figure from that y'all don't truly believe in that. And so I would like to thank Mr. Russian, Chairman Helms. I'd like to thank Mr. Pate, Mr. Rape there, because all of y'all actually bothered to contact me back when I reached out to you. So I'd really like to thank you for that. But, at the end of the day, I sent y'all up here to do a certain job. I'm hoping y'all gonna take that serious, okay? And I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. There seemed to be some confusion of signing up. Is it was anyone else that needed to speak in informal comments? All right, well, we'll close informal comments and move on. Next, we have additions, deletions, and our adoption of the agenda. And I'd like to begin by asking that we remove item 16 for a later date. We need some additional information on it. And I'd also like to add that we would like to do a resolution that would change the date at which our next meeting will be from April 5th to April 12th at 6 p.m. That happens to be a vacation week for county schools and everything. So I'd like to add that as item 26B. And based on no comments on our UDO, I'd like to add that as item number, address the UDO with item 26A. Any questions?
Motion to approve is amended.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Further discussion? Yes, sir? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Thank you. Next, we will have our consent agenda. We have a motion to approve as amended.
So moved.
Okay. All right, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay. Next is 26, item 26. We have no old business. Item 26 under new business. Consider step 3 economic development incentive we just heard about in our public hearing. Anything you'd like to add?
No, sir, thank you.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we go ahead and approve the economic incentive grant corporation. I didn't have the motion pulled up, so I need to go back and pull that.
You can breathe it right there.
I'd like to make a motion to approve a step 3 economic development incentive grant to confidential company Project Blue in an amount not to exceed $512,200 paid over a 5-year period, and authorize the county manager to execute an agreement with confidential company Project Blue pending legal review.
Okay. Is there any further discussions? Okay, we have a motion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? No. Okay. Next, we have 26A is also on the public hearing we had on approving the proposed UDO changes.
Mr. Chairman, real
Yes, sir.
quick, I'm showing 28A, or am I off of my, is it 28A or 20?
That's 26A is what 28 is the
The economic development grant was 28 on my agenda. Have I got a different agenda? 26 was EMS annual financial report.
That's an old agenda, isn't it?
Right.
Well, then I have an old agenda.
I'm not sure what Richard said when he added this, but
I said 26A, but
what you just said would make it
28A?
Yeah.
Okay. Absolutely, okay.
Apologize, I just wanted
No, thank
to
you.
make sure I was on the right.
Thank you. I print mine out earlier in the week and put it in my book so I can get through, so.
Clerk may change both those as mine.
May I try and clear what I believe has happened? I actually see that on the agenda, there seems to be an item that may have been added in the system that is not on the agenda, that was not in there. But do you have that, Mr. Manager? Number 27? That was not on the agenda, the original agenda.
That's correct, that was not on the original.
Yeah, so it is 28A. It falls in line when I get down to, so there was items added to the consent agenda that made the new business start at 28.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So it's 28A. Would be the adoption of the UDO presented in the public hearing. And I'll make a motion that we adopt that UDO changes that will become effective upon approval. Any conversation?
You got a question?
Yes, sir.
Would ask that you also include the consistency statement as well, that may go with that.
Very well, thank you. To include the consistency statement. Yes, go ahead.
And again, I just have the question of who does this affect and how soon does it affect it? Anything that's already in the system, anything that's already been presented in the works is okay. It starts when?
Stops after adoption. It would start after adoption.
Okay.
So basically tomorrow, if anyone came in with a project tomorrow, it would start tomorrow.
Yeah, and when you say come in with a project,
That means if they walk in the door with an application for a project, that would apply at that point in time.
okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? None. Thank you. Then 28. Is the motion to move the meeting from April 5th to April 12th at 6 o'clock following our work session. This will allow staff and some board members the opportunity to have spring break with their kids. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay. All right. Next, we have a credit rating review and bond update.
Mr. Chairman, in January of 2021, county staff met with the rating agencies of Moody's, Moody's, Fitch, and Standard & Poor's to receive a credit rating on the Series 2021 revenue bonds and all outstanding revenue bonds for the Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund. The county has received those new credit ratings. In addition, the local government commission has approved the Series 2021 revenue bond financing in March, in its March meetings, and the bonds were priced on March the 10th. And it is our pleasure today to have Mr. Jared White, who's our financial advisor with Stifel, with us to give us an update on these transactions. Jared, thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Chairman Helms, Commissioners. Put a lot of thought into, well, we put a lot of time into this bond issue. I know you all have put in probably the better part of a decade into building up to it. So standing here today, we couldn't be more excited about the end result, to be honest. And we're going to work over the next week and a half to 2 weeks to get the bond financing closed. But we did want to come in, answer any questions that you all had about the process, whether it's the rating process or how the bonds were priced, and as well just brag a little bit about how well the deal was received in the market, and ultimately historically low interest rates proved to be, I think, very beneficial for the long term. So we'll briefly touch on the municipal market update, where we were the week prior to pricing, leading into the week of pricing. We'll talk about the actual yields that we received on the 2021 bonds. We'll talk about a few price comparisons. There were some other comparable deals and credits in the market that day, as well as the week prior. And then overall, the bond rating impact, where we thought that might play out, and then where we ultimately think that the county's credit helped influence the overall pricing. So this top gray box here, it says takeaways from last week. That was the week prior to pricing. And just give you a general overview, rates started to decline 3 to 8 basis points in the days leading up to pricing. So that eased some of our pressures where rates were going. There were fears of inflation. There were fears of what the stimulus package was ultimately going to look like. And then there was more of a flight to equities. And we saw the stock market really rally over this time period, where money was leaving the municipal bond market and buying some equity. So a little bit of unsettling pressure going into the market, going into pricing day. We saw 8 consecutive days of rate increases to the total of 46 basis points, so almost 0.5%. We put this chart together. The blue chart you all are looking at is what we call the MMD index. It's our municipal market index. It's a benchmark where all municipal bonds are used to price on. The blue bars are the high and low ranges for the past 10 years. The colored lines at the bottom are essentially where Union County's bonds were priced. So when we look at this, we can say we didn't quite hit the bottom of the 10-year market, but we're very, very close. I think everyone in this room knows that rates are at historic lows, and this is a great time for the county to capitalize on that. Here's a quick chart. This is showing the past 4 bond issues that the county has sold, all revenue bonds. The top line, the yellow one, was your water and sewer revenue bonds that sold back in 2015. A true interest cost is essentially the true yield over the maturity of the loan. These are all 30-year loans. Back in 2015, we thought we set a record at 3.38%. Very good. We came back 2 years later in 2017. You all were able to crack through the 3% mark at 2.91%. And the trend continued. 2019, 281. And then the blue line is not straight. We tracked from September to pricing where we estimated and tracking the market. We ended up at a 2.28. Most economists would say inflation is 2%. We like to think that's pretty close to free money at a 2.28. So we're very, very excited with that end result. But as you can see, the trend line back in September, trending around that 270 range. We really rode the wave down through the election, through the holidays, into the 2021. And then I believe it's April 14th, the line goes straight up. That was the, we missed the market time frame. We started trending back down and ultimately locked in one of the lowest water and sewer rates in the state. This is our pricing summary, so this is what the underwriters put together, this is what the bond salesmen look at, and we're not going to go through a lot of these numbers, but essentially it's where did the pricing start out, where was it marketed, and ultimately where were the yields locked in at the time the tickets were written. The two places on the sheet I want to point you to would be the reprice. It's boxed in green on the right hand of the screen. Those are the yield adjustments that were made due to the reception that the county received. So we went out with approximately $300 million in bonds. Down at the bottom, we were 8 times oversubscribed, meaning for every bond, we had 8 orders. Outstanding reception, we got $2.4 billion in orders, and with that allowed us, that allowed R.W. Baird, the senior underwriter, to go back to those investors and adjust those yields down while maintaining the order. So that's the reprice where you really got your bang for your buck on a good interest rate. I think that, so the next 3 slides here are the price comparables. And what we try to do was go find credits out that were in the market on the same time that had at least or better credit ratings than Union County. So the first one was Anne Arundel, Maryland. That's the county between Washington, D.C. and Baltimore, Maryland. A very affluent area. They came out with $186 million water and sewer utility revenues. They were rated 1 notch better than Union County at a AA1, AAA rating. And the numbers that I would like, the only numbers you can focus on are the ones in orange in the middle. Anything that's negative is Union County had a lower yield to call. So without getting into too many details, it's comparing apples to apples. What did our pricing look like against the competition? And you can really see the impact there in years 10 through 15, where the county received 20, 30, and 40 basis point better pricing than a better rated county in Maryland. Same thing. This one is New York City Water and Sewer. This was a refunding deal. They came out with $575 million in water and sewer revenue bonds. Again, 1 notch better rated on the Moody side at AA1, and again on Fitch, 1 notch better. Again, the Union County outperformed New York City on the same day, the same market. The last one, we put this one in here. It was a different market. This is Columbia, South Carolina. A much smaller deal, but again, they did have the 1 notch better rating than Union County. And it was a mixed market. And I think this deal priced in a week prior, so early March. That was when the rates were starting to come back down and trend in the right direction. Union County, in my opinion, they through the belly of the curve, they priced much better. On the back end, Columbia received a better spread over that MMD index, but if you look at true yields, Union County received a lower true interest cost. For example, in the final maturity, Union County received a 2.3, well, I put my marker right over it, 2.31%, while Columbia was at a 2.45. So again, all of this is to show you what a great reception, what a great outcome, and I think everyone in this room should be extremely proud about your efforts, the staff's efforts, and great timing on the market. The last thing we want to run through was we have 1 slide, maybe 2 here of just some information, but on the rating process, I think you all know that the water and sewer revenue bonds, Moody's did make an adjustment from AA1 down to AA2. S&P affirmed their rating at AA+, and Fitch affirmed their rating at AA. The comments from Moody's were they want to see how the debt seasons. They want to see how we get into some of the rate changes, and ultimately how the debt service coverage ratios play out. So again, we saw this potentially as a 7-point basis point increase across the board. In reality, it had no impact, in our opinion, on the pricing. Can't make any promises moving forward on future deals, but in this one, with $300 million on the line, we saw no impact, no investor questions that showed any concern. And then again, this is the county's general obligation bond, AAA across the board, no issues. It's as good as gold, and AAAs in North Carolina are better than AAAs elsewhere. So again, very proud to report some of the good news. That's it. That's all the information we had, but I'm happy to answer any questions and go back to any slide that we want to.
Mr. Williams?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, Jared. What was the assumption going into this? Was it 2.75% yield? What were we assuming going into this conservatively in terms of yield?
In terms of our true interest cost?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we had not to exceed rates of 275.
Okay.
But again, those, in my opinion, those are worst-case scenarios. So when we were going into it, we realistically thought the day of pricing, we were going to be in the 230 to 240 range, so probably a 235. When talking to the staff, we were really, we would say, wow, this would be a best-case scenario to break the 230 range. But I'm not sure it's going to happen, and it did. So I would say 235 to 240 was our week of best guess.
As I recall, the coverage ratios using those assumptions were kind of tight initially. I guess our picture in terms of coverage ratios are looking a little better.
They did. They would improve a little bit. I think, are you referring to the feasibility report?
Yes, the feasibility study. I'm trying to think back, and on the coverage ratios, it seems like we were kind of close, kind of tight on some of those. And I would imagine with the lower yield, those are looking a little bit better.
They would be, and I would say they weren't tight in terms of board policies or where we want to see them. I think they were still in the 1.4 range, but they were tighter than we've seen them in the past just because of the increase in debt. But to answer your question, yes, they have improved slightly. I think our anticipated annual debt service came in around, and Beverly may correct me, $500,000 a year lower than what we had anticipated. But I would have to, I'd like to confirm that in the 500,000? So about $500,000 less per year.
Very good. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Next, item 30 is discussion, consideration for a joint meeting with the City of Monroe on East Side sewer capacity. Mr. Manager, can you help us?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For several months now, this public works staff between Union County and the City of Monroe have been meeting informally, discussing water sewer needs and projects and what the future looks like, and trying to find a way that would potentially benefit both organizations' current and future needs. And really, at this point, we think that a good foundation has been laid in the discussions with the City of Monroe. And we think it's time to take that to the next level and turn those conversations into a little bit more formal discussion. I would recommend at this point in time that the board consider making a request to the City of Monroe City Council for a joint meeting between the Union County Board of Commissioners and the Monroe City Council for the purpose of a couple of things. One is to obtain updates formally from the City of Monroe Public Utility Director. Let that director inform this board of the situation that Monroe has with its water and sewer and what its future needs look like, and vice versa. Let our Public Works Director inform the Monroe City Council of our current situation with capacities, et cetera, and our future needs. And if the two boards think it a worthy endeavor, I would recommend that a work group be established that would be made up of both elected officials from this board and the Monroe City Council, the county manager, the city manager, and the utility directors to really dig into the details of how we can work together to meet the current and future needs of our community in a more collaborative way. So that would be my recommendation. I think from my standpoint, we're there. We're ready for those more formal discussions, and I believe that in order to advance, as I call it, advance the ball down the field, we need to have these types of discussions.
Okay, well, thank you. Commissioner Rushing.
I make the motion that we follow the manager's recommendation on that item. I would repeat it, but I can't remember everything he said. Keep it short next time.
Any other comments? We have a motion, any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
We'll be in contact with the city manager and the Monroe Council and try to schedule that meeting a date that's convenient for both boards.
Okay, thank you, sir. Next, we have our item 31, appointments to boards and committees. We have vacancies exist on the following boards and committees, and we'll take them one at a time. Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee, we have 5 vacancies. One of these vacancies is designated for a person with a physical disability. Applications received were Michael Evola, Jerry Ford, Russell Hughes, David Pomnick, and Elisha Strauss. Commissioner Rushing.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to accept those 5 nominees to fill those vacancies.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. None opposed. Next, we have the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, JCPC, vacancy for juvenile defense attorney. 1 application received from Tiffany Wilson, and I'll make a motion that we accept Tiffany. Is that any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay. Next, we have Home and Community Care Block Grant Committee. The term of Catherine M. Damaski has expired on the Home and Community Care Block Grant Committee, and Ms. Damaski has submitted her application for reappointment.
Motion to accept the application for reappointment.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. No objections. Next, we have the Library Board of Trustees, 4 vacancies on this board. Waxhaw representative currently serving is Valerie H. Groma-Fitz. I know I butchered that one, I apologize. At-large representative currently serving Julie Thomas. Weddington representative currently serving Karen Bowman. And Marshville representative currently serving Charles B. Balkum. Valerie, our Waxhaw representative, I'm not going to make a mess of her name again. Julie Thomas at large, Catherine Bound, and Charlene Balkum, Marshville, have submitted applications for reappointment. Did I leave that? Yeah, Karen Bowman, yes. Okay, thank you. Make a motion that we accept all above for reappointment. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All right. Next, we have county manager's comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With regard to the April the 12th meeting of the Board of County Commissioners, that's going to be a very busy day for the board and staff. Currently, we have a budget update, a budget work session scheduled beginning, I believe, at 3 o'clock. We are looking to add a public works work session at 1 o'clock. The public works work session would include an overview, an update on current CIP projects along with the bulk water program. And again, we would have a budget update at 3 and a regular meeting at 6. With regard to the bulk water program and our normal maintenance activities, we are flushing water lines at this time. Every so often, we have to flush chloramine-treated water out of the system, replace it with chlorine-treated water for a short period of time to ensure that the lines are appropriately disinfected. This maintains good drinking water, safe drinking water, and we're doing that at this time, especially in those areas that are at the end, I'll call them at the end of the line, where the water is not circulated that often. We're having to flush those lines out to make sure that that chlorine-treated water is in those lines. The chlorine water would be in those lines for a month or more, and then we would have to flush that portions of the line out and return back to the chloramine and treated water. But that is a process that's going on right now. We've received some calls and concerns about that line flushing, but that's what's going on in addition to normal flushing related to repairs in the lines. There'll be some more public information coming out about the line flushings this week. You'll see that on social media and other venues. So with that, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Williams.
No comments, thank you.
Commissioner Ray. Commissioner Rushing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Mr. Kazai, for coming today. I either saw Ben in the back or thought you were him, so. He was in the back, okay, because I thought.
He was here to make sure I stayed calm.
I got you. I thought he was your twin. I said, man, Ben's
I
twin.
would ask her, y'all not gonna have any discussion on the proposed tax?
No, and that's what my comments are about. What this is a process. This process starts early in the year and goes up until June. And then the last meeting in June, that's when we actually have the vote on what the tax rates are going to be and everything's in. People are still doing their revaluation process. They're doing their appeals. So until everybody's finished with all they have to do, we don't know what those numbers are. But I will, if it makes you feel any better, after serving on this board for almost 12 years now in different times, everybody up here that we've worked with in budget process, we're haggling over every dollar. And it's kind of like when I was young, my parents would give us a Sears catalog, and they'd say, well, you got this much to spend for Christmas. You need to look and see what you want and don't want. And then you made your big list, and then you've whittled it down to what you actually wanted, right, Jerry? So we do that. We pick and go through everything, much to the county managers and the staff's dismay sometimes. We throw away things that they wanted or thought they needed or maybe even needed, but we pick and choose everything we can. So I want everybody, not just you, but everybody that is in Union County to understand, as far as this board and taxes, we are as conservative as possible. We don't always agree. We don't always come to the same numbers, but we do all fight to try to keep that number as low as possible and give back if we can. We're taxpayers too, and we have to go through the same process that you do. So hopefully you'll feel better. Maybe, hopefully in July, me and you can talk and you feel better
When I
about.
pull it out my mailbox, I'll know. I'll give you a call, let you know what I think then. How
That's-
about that?
that's right, but-
If you don't mind, could I get
What?
all y'all?
We
maybe-
can't,
So maybe you tell us where y'all are at on that?
that wouldn't be appropriate now, but I know that we all are gonna look after your tax dollars as best we can. Everybody up here, like I said, even though we may not always agree on everything, we do agree that we don't wanna take a bigger bite, than we should. And we're gonna fight and we're gonna work and we spent a lot of time already and we'll continue to spend time to work for the taxpayers of Union County. And I-
Smaller government, lesser taxes. That's what I was promised.
Yeah.
I'm holding y'all fellas to it, right?
All right, thank you.
We
Sir, this
discussed
is
it
for
outside
commissioners'
polling
comments.
place.
I'll be glad to talk with you offline, but let
Thank
our commissioners finish their comments.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you. That's
Thank you
end of
so
comments.
much.
Thank you.
Mr. Simpson.
It seems like there's a lot of talk now about the fact that we may be coming out of the pandemic, and I just remember back early March of last year when we were going into it, and Union County has worked real hard to not miss too many beats throughout that year. And it seems like every meeting that we have, there's someone that's recognized, whether it be a department or an individual, for their contributions to the citizens of Union County. And I just want to say kudos to that, to the staff and to their dedication. I know one other thing I want to mention is, and it's a thing that it's always a matter of the stars aligning. There's all that, but there's a lot of work that goes into it. And I want to congratulate the finance group and working with our professionals and our consultants. I don't know if that was considered a over-the-fence home run, but it was darn close. It might be an in-the-park home run, so good job.
Well, I'd like to also thank our finance department and also congratulate you on your win this weekend as well. Quite an athlete there. And, but we, this past week, we had a meeting with the majority of our municipalities. We held took up most of the day. And we held this meeting to listen to what their concerns were. Some of them were like yours, Mr. Kazai. And also to hear what their thoughts on water sewer capacity and things of that nature. It was an excellent meeting. My feedback from the municipality says it was the best we've had, and this is about the third one I think we've had. And we look forward to, they've even asked to have them more frequently. So that's a good thing. I think we need to congratulate our staff for putting together such an efficient meeting and being prepared to communicate to our municipalities. And then also, I'd like to thank our deputies. We appreciate you here. We appreciate all our deputies in Union County and the service that you provide for us. We're a very blessed county to have Sheriff Eddie Cathy and your team that takes care of us. So with that, I'll make a motion to adjourn. All in favor?